I'm Nicole.
I'm Rolando.
And I'm Eddie Z.
And this is Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals,
an original podcast
about unoriginality.
And this is part 1 of our Bridget Jones series. And we're going to be talking about the OG, the original 2001 film, Bridget Jones' Diary. Came out in 2001, co-production of the States, United Kingdom, directed by Sharon Maguire. And it was based on the 1996 book by Helen Fielding, who was a consultant.
Did you say it was directed by Jerry Maguire?
Sharon Maguire.
My gosh. I was about to say, she's like, that wasn't a real person.
Show me the money.
Yeah.
The book was written by a woman, movie directed by a woman, about a woman.
Wow.
Right? Not something that was as common in 2001.
I don't think it's that common today either. Let's be very honest.
It's slow, baby
short.
steps.
It's more prominent, but it's not as common.
It's truly not as common. Yeah, how sad. So this movie was a smash hit when it came out. It was produced on a $25 million budget, and it grossed $335 million freaking dollars.
That's that's a lot. Was it pounds or is it American dollars?
No, that's American. That's American. Wow. I mean, at the end of the day, I would say between I think this is an American film about British people. Mm-hmm. So this was back at a time where rom-coms were released in movie theaters and people went and saw them.
I think you could make the argument though that Bridget Jones kind of revitalized the rom-com though. Wasn't there a whole there was a bigger string of rom-coms that came out after Bridget Jones' success, 13 Going on 30, The Devil Wears Prada came out in 2006, Legally Blonde 2001. Well, no, that kind of came out the same year. That was kind of the same year.
Before then, though, we were still getting Julia Roberts movies and Sandra Bullock movies. So,
how long between?
Notting Hill came out in 1999, so only 2 years before. I think that rom-coms really flourished in the 90s, and then they officially died in 2010. So, the 2010s, I'm not going to say the year 2010. They had a 20-so year period where they were just in their heyday of the contemporary rom-com. Not how they used to make them in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. The more so late 20th century one.
Yeah, because I feel like after Bridget Jones, it became more girl-centric a little bit. Not in a demeaning way. I meant more it's not necessarily about the love. It's also about self-discovery and love.
Got it. Yeah, it was a little bit more self-empowering, actually. I think that's why it was such a hit. And really quick before we talk about the plot summary too, because we're kind of jumping into it before we talk about the basics of it, is that this was such a smash, whereas Renée Zellweger got nominated for an Academy Award. That doesn't really happen when it comes to rom-coms. So I just don't want to I want to really highlight how much of a hit this was. I mean, it's 2025 and the 5th film in this series is coming out. So
we're on the 5th Bridget Jones's?
I'm sorry, you're right. It is only 4. So we're 25 years later. It's 4 movies in the franchise.
Yeah, the 4th one is The Mad About the Boy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's the most recent one. Yeah, I was about to say, woo.
What is Bridget Jones even about? In case you're new here, let's tell you what it's about. Bridget Jones is a single woman in her 30s living in London, and she writes in her diary where she tracks her weight, relationships, and efforts to improve herself. And she navigates the ups and downs of her love life, including her complicated feelings for 2 men. Her charming but arrogant boss, Daniel Cleaver, played by Hugh Grant, and the more reserved but dependable lawyer, Mark Darcy, played by Colin Firth. The joke being Darcy. You guys saw through the whole Pride and Prejudice references in this? I mean, essentially, it's Pride and Prejudice.
It is a little bit of Pride and Prejudice going on here, yeah.
I mean, they took a lot of liberties with Pride and Prejudice, but it is Pride and Prejudice.
It's not an adaptation, but it's most certainly, you got the love triangle, you have the beginning, when you meet someone, you have an instant opinion on them that kind of carries throughout the entirety of the story.
Yeah, it's the original enemies to lovers, and it's still the one that everyone, references. Colin Firth had played Mr. Darcy in, I think, the 1995 adaptation. It really helped define his career. So I read that part of the reason why he wanted to take this role was so that he could kind of spoof himself in it and kind of, get free a little bit of it. I don't know. I don't see how he got free of it. I think
if anything, just reinforced it.
But yeah, so 3 leads: Renée Zellweger as Bridget Jones, Hugh Grant, Daniel Cleaver, and Colin Firth as Mark Darcy. Okay, relationships with this movie. Had you seen this before? Did you see this growing up?
No, I never. I'm watching it for this podcast was the first time I'd seen this film.
I actually did see this movie. I'm a big fan of rom-coms during that period. 80s, 90s, aughts. So yeah, I did see this as one of my viewings when it first came out.
I think I saw this for the first time maybe 2 years ago.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, full disclosure about me, rom-coms now of 80s, 90s, and aughts are just not my go-tos. They're very tropey, and that's not a complaint. I love movies that are tropey. The tropes, I've realized, though, don't work for me. It's kind of like how the tropes of the Western don't work for Rolando or something. Like, I think
Mhm.
certain genre of films, everybody responds to certain tropes. And
Sure.
what the rom-com kind of turned into in the late 20th century was just something that I was like, oh, you know me, I'm so old-fashioned. Eddie calls me a time traveler. I'll take my 40s and 50s rom-coms, like most of, like all 7 days of the week, essentially.
Like, what would you say is the difference between modern rom-coms versus those of the 1950s?
I don't know. Like, I just don't. Movies nowadays also are just so sarcastic and like they want to be smarter than every other movie and maybe
They want
even
to be
smarter
meta. They
than
want to break the
you.
fourth wall. They want to make like it's like wink, wink. We're better than this.
I'm not the target audience. Bridget Jones and other rom coms of this sort, I feel like are made for primarily straight women, which is like
Mhm.
they're chick flicks, and then maybe like gay men.
One of
Maybe
us
it
here did
depends.
watch. Yeah, one of us here. One of the two of us here did watch it. So
Look, these all movies should be at the end of the day made for everybody, but there's usually a type of person that will gravitate more towards than others. And I'm not trying to say lesbians don't enjoy these type of movies. I'm saying this one doesn't. So that's my only thing. But I did see it 2 years ago. I kind of needed sometimes I need a break every so often from my old movies, my international movies, my dramas.
this isn't counted as international for you. It's a British. It's a half British
I consider
enterprise.
this movie to be very American. And yeah, I thought it was fine. I will say that I think Renee Zellweger is freaking fantastic.
You know, I prefer Renée Zellweger with a little meat on her bones. I cannot believe that this is what they considered fat,
Yeah, yeah.
which is crazy to me because it's
It's a
only
lot
2001.
of fat
Yeah.
shaming
So much fat shaming.
towards her, but that's true. I think that one of the things that I did, I think this is what probably would attracted this movie attracted me when I was a kid to watch this or when it came out.
The fat
Uh,
jokes.
no, was her the main actress,
Oh,
and her
Renée
just
Zellweger.
being just very adorable. She has a very adorableness even in her messiness. She looks so like innocent but mischievous, like a little mischief
Yeah, she's
in
very
her
cute. Plus, she has like
appearance.
that. She has
She
like
has
a cute voice.
very appeal to her.
Hmm.
And I feel like she was like the awkward character who was just like fumbling everything before that became very mainstream. Like millennials kind of took that as the way we approach everything, like super awkward and like don't know how to act. And that's Bridget.
It's true. It's true. Like the millennials have defined like their entire culture around that kind of persona. I mean, look at the New Girl. Look at the Mindy Project, right? Like these
Yeah,
women are embodiments of kind of like that. We exist in awkwardness and we can empathize and relate to that because so often we do, right? And I guess that's true. I guess in that sense, we are all Bridget Jones.
definitely. Well, I will say the one way that you're Bridget Jones, Sarah, is that she too watches Frasier.
I saw that. Yes. Unlike Bridget Jones, I don't listen to like all by myself and crying.
Oh, I love that
Even in my
song.
most single
I love that
days,
song.
you know.
I
Yeah.
did.
Well, it's also like that was probably my favorite scene because of her performance. I'm like, look at her lip syncing and her depression to this. Like, it was truly Drag Race worthy. I
Mhm.
think that opening, I was like, okay, this sets up the movie fine. Like, this is a good opening to kind of be like, this is what you're in store for. And if you ain't down with it, turn this off. I will say, like you guys said, fat shaming, she fat shames herself a lot. She writes down in her journal what her weight is, and I took note of it. Her weight was 136. I looked
She
her
gained
up.
by the end.
Renee Zellweger is 5'4".
Mhm.
Now, the BMI calculator is old fashioned. Some people think it's bullshit. It's really outdated. But according
Yes.
to the BMI calculator, being 34 years old, 5'4", and 136 pounds, she's a normal weight.
Yeah. No, because she looks like a normal person.
She's normal. But what she is that she's more sort of leaning towards overweight than underweight, right? Because that's how the BMI calculator works and all that. So for her, she's like, oh, like I'm 23.3 on the BMI scale, and at 25 I'm overweight, so I'm a fucking fat ass.
Right. Yeah. Which, I mean, in 2001, like, I mean, isn't that when Tyra Banks and they were doing America's Next Top Model, where like someone who was a size 4, maybe it was a little later, but someone was a size 4 is just like, you're fat. You're like, you're basically a plus size model. Like, in what world? In what world?
Yeah.
But in this world, apparently, right? Because it's crazy to me that 2001 we were still. You want to think that after 1989 we became like sophisticated modern people, accepting of everyone. It's just like no, not the
Oh,
case.
not the case at all. And it's kind of, it's sad because it's something that my generation grew up on. And we saw this and we were like, oh, every woman kind of put in the back of their head, oh, okay, you look like Renée Zellweger does in Bridget Jones, which is, she looks great. Yeah, everyone thinks she looks ugly and fat. Like, of course, every girl I know has self-esteem issues. So it's just terrible. But I will also say that's when I realized that the movie was American, because she gave her weight in pounds, not stone. So I was like, this movie's fake British. So
I didn't catch that. Good catch.
Speaking of British people, Renée Zellweger is not one of them. What did we think of her accent?
You could have fooled me. Actually, I didn't know that she was from Texas until I was doing my research for the show. And I've never thought about Renée Zellweger's accent or where she's from, right? And it never occurred to me that she wasn't British when I was watching the film. So good job, Renée.
Really? Wow.
It didn't, but I also don't consume a lot of British media, so as many of us have probably heard on our social media clips, like I don't care about Wallace and Gromit and may have offended our British friends across the pond. But yeah, like it's not something I think about. So I thought, for me as a passive American audience member, I thought she was convincing.
Well, I also think that she approached it right. Her accent's very subtle. She's not like Gavna. She's not over pronouncing anything. It's a very nice southern, like London area accent. And I also just think that she's good. I mean, I do think that Renée Zellweger, she's an two-time Oscar winner, deserved it both times. I think she's kind of like, because she's gone away for a while, she kind of took a couple years off. She made Judy, and now she's also, after like making that Pam show, hasn't done that much. I think she's just one of the best out there, honestly. Like, I wish she was in more or was more mainstream. I think her movie choices aren't as famous or just don't like hit as well with the public, but she's fucking awesome in everything she does. So I don't know. After this, I was like, wow, the reason why this movie works is because of her. I think it stands on her shoulders. And I don't know. I really, really was a fan of hers.
The thing though that was very jarring for me was this commentary on her looks or her weight, and always this sense of making her feel that she wasn't enough.
Yeah,
that wasn't enough in the men that she encountered. Or her own perspective of like what she thinks these men
deserve
think
or
of
need.
her,
Yeah,
or
like
think of her.
Yeah. So the men being Daniel Cleaver, played by Hugh Grant, and Mark Darcy, played by Colin Firth. She first meets Colin Firth's character in the first scene at a Christmas party, where he's wearing, by today's measure, a very tame Christmas sweater, but by 2001's measures, a horrifying Christmas sweater. And he makes some very rude comments about Bridget, who is just, Bridget's bold, she's brash, and she's unapologetically who she is, and it's not everyone's cup of tea.
But she still takes shit, though.
Would you call her bold? I wouldn't call her bold.
I would. I mean, I don't. She doesn't hide in a corner.
No, she doesn't. But I think she also lets her messiness just spill out. Like when she's gonna be messy, she's messy, and then it's like I really felt that she wasn't apologetic about it.
Yeah.
So I think that she like recognized. I think maybe she goofs about it later on. maybe feels bad about it, but she's not apologetic at the moment. Like, oh, I'm messy.
Mm.
I'm sorry for being so messy.
She awkwardly owns it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, because like I'm thinking more so like when she presented the writer, right? How she was just so awkward and so like just terrible at doing public speaking.
There were some scenes there. So there are certain scenes in this movie that I felt a little disjointed, um, because I didn't understand whether the transition was she drinking before she did the introduction, because there was like almost a drunkenness to her presentation, or
Was she
or
just
she
awkward?
just a very bad public speaker. But there was no build up in either or. Too, like
Mm-hmm.
letting us know, like usually when a character is really bad at public speaking, you get like comments like, oh my god, I'm so bad at public speaking, oh my god, I'm so nervous. But she wasn't any of those things. She was more caught up with who was there. She does this thing, it's so bad, it's just like, are you drunk? I don't understand what's going on.
No, it's true. Yeah. And like one of the flaws of this movie is that the editing is not the best, or at least like understanding where we are and at what point in time. But that's just a rom-com, I think, problem. They don't really care too much about passage of time and whatnot, and making things clear between how people got from one thing to another. Darcy, from the moment we meet him, he's kind of a jerk.
Yes.
He judges Bridget. He treats his girlfriend, who is also a judgmental hoe, but it's his girlfriend.
That wasn't. That's the one thing that was confusing, right? Because like it didn't seem like throughout the majority of the film they were dating until later on.
Well, they were definitely together in some extent. I mean,
Yeah, like
she was his date to a lot of things.
right, but because even when she met Perpetua, right, the coworker, like when
Mm-hmm.
they interacted, she's just like it was the implication being like, give it time, he'll be mine soon enough. Like, you know what I mean? Like meaning even by the first act of the film, Darcy and this lady, they were still not together. I don't think they were together until like that dinner party with all the couples. That's when I think they may have started their courtship. I think they were just business partners at that point.
However she started off, she ended up that way. And he doesn't treat her that great, especially once he starts realizing his feelings for Bridget. He kind of, seeing both of them. And it's interesting because he's pitted against Daniel Cleaver, Daniel is portrayed as a playboy. He's rich. He is very bold, more so than Bridget, but confidently so, whereas Bridget is awkwardly so. And he's a bit of a fuckboy in today's standards. He lies to Bridget, says that Mark Darcy used to be his best friend, but he caught Mark sleeping with his to-be fiance. And Bridget believes this story the whole time until the very end of the movie, where we find out that actually was the other way around. Daniel Cleaver slept with Mark Darcy's wife on the night of his wedding or something.
I wonder why she believed him, because that's even
Because
I
she
saw that
wanted
a couple
to.
of- I guess
Because
so,
she
right?
wanted to, yeah.
Like, when you want to, the heart wants what it wants, and
Exactly. People see and people don't see what they don't
Yeah.
want to see.
What is it? Rose-colored glasses when you're in relationships. Oh, you don't see the red flags because you have the rose-colored glasses on,
Yep.
and those just look like flags.
There you go. See? But he's fun. I mean, when they go to that weekend, retreat or whatever, and Darcy's there with Perpetua and they look miserable on the canoe, and he's like falling into the water and making her laugh. Like, he's a good time.
yes,
But he's
he
also a
seems
fuckboy
like
and
it.
a playboy.
But
So
what a gorgeous apartment!
That
woo,
part was ridiculous. I thought
Oh my god!
I thought it was a library, like a
Ah.
section of the library.
I would put up.
Then
I
it
would put up
pans
with
out. There's a bedroom.
I would put up with the cheating just for that apartment. To be quite honest, let me tell you.
yeah. Well, we're presented with two completely different guys, and I gotta ask you guys. I mean, who's the one you would end up with, or who's the one that you're like, you know what? Because I think they both suck at the end of the day. So who sucks less?
Well, I really don't know how she was put up with that little comment that she overheard when he was saying to his mother that she's like a spinster, a 30-something-year-old spinster, and
Yes.
that kind of thing. And I'm just like, she should have
Rude.
thrown a drink at him or something, because it's just absolutely
Uncalled for.
uncalled for.
Yeah,
He
ungentlemanly.
read her to filth.
Yeah.
And he had the audacity to wear that stupid sweater.
See, the problem is that she believed she agreed with him, right? So when she views herself that way, she's not going to throw water in her.
Exactly.
And that's the thing, poor Bridget, like she's got to, like most girls, she's got to work on that self-esteem. I think Darcy, the fact that he reads her diary too, the fuck?
That was another big red flag moment of why would you do? But then she goes to chase after him, where I feel like by today's standards, be like, yeah, get out. I don't want you back. Leave.
I'd be, oh wow, my diary was open and he read it. I'd be like, fucking asshole.
I'm the bad guy because I left my diary out in my apartment after he came over unannounced. Like, yeah, this is not a movie that I would want to show my female daughter at all, because I feel like this sets very, very bad precedents, I guess. Like, right?
Yeah,
like,
boundaries.
these are terrible, terrible lessons. The men just kind of both of them do walk all over her. And it's really pushing this narrative of just like, you can't be happy alone, right?
Yeah.
Like a 30-something-year-old single person in 2001. I can't believe what a sin it was to be still single.
That's also, I think, one of my main problems with rom-coms is that at the end of the day, it is kind of like, what's wrong with you if you end up with someone? Like, that's the ultimate goal in life, right? Is to fall in love and settle for some toxic asshole. So
Right.
I just don't find any of it romantic.
Yeah, I think that ultimately this movie just rubbed me in many ways the wrong way, because it was a cute movie, like it was quirky and stuff. Not particularly well shot, in my opinion, either.
No, very boringly shot.
It was very flat in many places. That's just the A plot. I think the B plot of the parents, like her mom walking off on her dad to be with like a TV oil salesman and snake oil salesman, and then running back to her father, and her father just welcomes her back in open arms. I'm just like, in what world? In what? I would not.
I actually believe that. I mean, what else does he have?
That's the issue, because like at no point did he go out and try to find something of his own either.
Yes, but he's not 36 and young, and he's lived his whole life this way, and they've established a whole life together. I mean, if after 35 years together, all of a sudden your life for the past 35 years has changed, you might be hesitant to grow too. That one I understand a little bit better. Now, of course, I would want him to be like, she fucking left you high and dry, man. Like, fuck her. But I understand it. I don't understand why Bridget is so hard on herself. There's no real reason for it. In her circumstances, she's killing it. She's successful. I mean, she's smoking a pack of cigarettes a day with her fabulous friends. Like,
I found that so jarring. It was so weird to see people smoking.
Yeah.
It was so funny. Like
So
people just
freely.
like after dinner, just taking out a cigarette and smoking. And it was like, wow.
Which
yeah,
I
it was
guess-
cool in the movie.
Yeah, it was a still thing, because I guess smoking indoors didn't stop until like the mid 2000s, like 2000. Because I was still in high school when we were still allowed to smoke in cigarettes here in Jersey.
Really quick, Bridget's mom, messed up or yes, queen?
Messed up.
A little bit messed up. What did
Yeah.
she say? Oh, the Japanese, they're such a cruel race.
Every time. My God, yeah.
Oh, I
Like,
was
she
talking
said it,
more
like-
so about leaving the husband, though.
No, messed up.
Well, another element of the movie is about settling,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about settling because
Because
Bridget-
Hugh Grant was going to settle with Bridget.
no,
He
the
was.
opposite. Does he care about her, or he just likes the way he just likes the way she makes him feel,
Mhm.
right? But with her, with Mr. Darcy, what really
Mr. Darcy.
what really disturbed me was that when she said, "Oh, he said that I like you just the way you are," right?
Mhm.
And that was the thing that made her feel like, "Oh, that's wonderful." You know?
Yeah. but-
He's a
well,
nice nice guy that likes me just the way I am,
Mhm.
right? And I was like, "Yeah, that's nice." But are we just settling for the guy who just likes you? There's no like it's like we're just settling? Or is it just like, yeah, is this it like, oh, because this is my nice safe option for me.
Mhm.
You know? This is what's gonna make sure that I'm not gonna turn 35 by myself. You know? And I didn't like that.
I don't
You're
know.
like,
There
oh.
is something romantic about the notion of someone saying they love you just the way you
I
are.
know, but it didn't feel that way.
I see what you.
It did
Yeah,
not
it's true.
feel
Because the
that
way he
way.
did say it at the party when she's leaving was just like, "I love that you're a hot mess, and I love that you're fat, and I love your oily hair. I love everything about you. Don't change for me."
Yeah.
As mind you, like the other skinny, the women they compare her to were like obnoxiously too skinny, right? Like it was the hot New Yorker, who was
Mm-hmm.
like this slamming,
I
slamming.
thought you said she was skinny.
What a lie! I would have fucking.
I would have
murdered her.
drowned her in that
Yeah.
bathtub. Drown her in that bathtub.
And then the other one who always walked around like she had a stick up her ass. Which, by the way, was that the implication of what Hugh Grant and her were getting into and stuff when she was just like, you could be arrested in some states for that. Not states, I guess, whatever they have in Britain. Provinces.
Perhaps I actually don't remember exactly the quote you're referring to.
They were like canoodling in bed. This is when she said, I love you.
Oh,
Isn't
right.
it every woman's dream to say I love you after anal?
You're asking the wrong woman. Well, maybe we should leave it on that. That's quite the question to leave it out on. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into not only this film, but the other two films and the new one in our next two videos on the Bridget Jones series. So, have you seen Bridget Jones? Are you a fan of it? Let us know your thoughts. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. And until the next video,
Stay an original.